Hey, hi, hello, how are you? I'm Pia and today I'm going to be doing my May wrap up. I do like telling you how many books I've finished in the month at the beginning of the video, though I never know when I'm starting the video. I read 9 books this month. I think it's the best I've done this year so far. More to come. I'm excited. I'm getting my reading mojo back. I am excited to read again and I'm very happy. I've read a lot of really great books this month, so I can't wait to share them with you guys. If you haven't watched my reading vlogs for these, I have shared most of my thoughts, if not all of them, in those vlogs, but of course this will just be a nice cumulative wrap-up, as it's titled. The first book that I finished during the month of May was The Kiss Quotient. I read this for the reading vlog where I was reading some of Noel Gallagher's favorite books, and this is a romance about a main character who has autism and she hires a escort to kind of teach her how to be in a relationship and how to be intimate, and they end up kind of fake dating and obviously leads to a romance. I really liked this at first. I don't know what exactly went wrong, so I ended up giving this 2 out of 5 stars. I found the relationship just kept getting really annoying and the characters were very upsettingly aggravating, and I just was very tired of it for a while. So I ended up giving this 2 out of 5 stars. I didn't really like it and it was such a shame because I thought it was really cute, and then it was just a bunch of unnecessary fighting and miscommunication, and it was just annoying and bothered me so much, so it was not my favorite read. Then I read Writers and Lovers by Lily King. I loved this book. This is a book about a woman named Pixie whose mother unexpectedly passes away, and she is dealing with that grief. And she's also at a really interesting place in her life. She's 31, she's a writer, but she has never put out a book. She's been working on the same book for 6 years. She's a waitress. She is having problems with where she's living. She has to move. There's so many things going on in her life, and it's very complicated and chaotic. And it seems like almost everything is falling apart at the same time. And she is also interested in two very different men at the same time, so we kind of follow her obviously dealing with these difficulties in her life and kind of almost like a coming of age in a way, kind of her finding her place and still, you know, not being where she thought she would be at 31, and I just really love this. I really enjoyed this. It features a lot of my favorite things to read about, which are writers, and I love reading about grief. I don't like love triangles at all, and I didn't feel like that was too much of the plot that it was annoying, and I felt like the 2 different love interests brought very different things to the table and were very unique, and weren't kind of being pick me, choose me, and ultimately I didn't love who she chose. Exposure is so bad because I'm wearing a white shirt and this is black and it's just bad. But I really love this. It was so, I mean, it says on the cover, it says wonderful, witty, heartfelt. I feel like that is a fantastic way to describe it. It just made me so happy to be a writer. It made me inspired and it made me feel a little bit validated. So if you are a writer or you like reading about writers and lovers, I think this would be a great book for a lot of different people. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. This is a very interesting story because when I've talked about this book, I have not explained it well. So I apologize. In 2 different perspectives. It goes throughout many years. And it is about these sisters. And they are African American, but they are white passing, and they grow up in this very small town, not even on a map, and they end up leaving this town and trying to just live outside of this small town and make a life for themselves, and one of them ends up leaving, and because she is white passing, she starts living her life as if she is a white woman, and all of what that means of how she presents herself and is treated and respected, all that. And so we haven't seen this character in a long time. So we go back and forth in time, so we see how they are living these very separate lives, how one of the sisters is trying to find her sister because she does not know what happened to her. She doesn't know that she's living this kind of lie of a life almost, and it really just examines obviously prejudice and racism, and just it's so interesting and so heartbreaking. Later follow the daughter of one of the sisters as she is going and she meets the sister that vanished, I guess, which is the vanishing of. I still can't even explain how amazing this is. It's so interesting, so intricate. Perspectives are incredible to read about. We have such different voices and such different experiences that just bring such an incredible and enlightening and brilliant story. And I just absolutely adored this book. I think it's so fantastic, and I cannot say enough good things about this. This is so good. And I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I'm sweating my ass off in this one. Then I finished Lily and Duncan by Donna Gephardt. This is a middle grade about a transgender girl and a boy with bipolar disorder. They become friends. That's kind of what this is about. This is fantastic. This is great. It took me a long time to read it because I was, like I said, it had been a while since I was physically reading, and this is again, an amazing story. It is so impactful and I think really well done for the audience. It is able to create this really great representation in a really accessible way and allow younger readers to understand these complex things like identities and sexuality and mental health and things like that. And I think that it's amazingly done. I can't speak to the trans rep in it, and I do think it's important to read Own Voices reviews of books like this, but I can speak to the bipolar representation, and I felt like it was very accurate, and I really thought it was such a cute story. Like, even though it had all of these obviously really difficult things going on. I mean, Lily is dealing with the fact that, like, she doesn't know how to exactly be herself and be accepted as who she is, and like, she's in the middle of transitioning, and Duncan is dealing with trying to manage the chaos in his mind, but it's such a beautiful story about friendship and family, and it's so great. I loved it a lot. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. Next up, I read China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan. This is the second book in the Crazy Rich Asians series? I can't even speak. I can't say too much about this. It's a sequel, so this continues where the first book left off. I really liked the first book. I thought it was really great. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. It wasn't as good as that one, I think, but it was definitely more dramatic. There were more things going on, more moving parts. I definitely had to remember a lot of people's names because there were a lot of different characters and they're all like intertwined and family and a lot of things going on, but I did enjoy this. I think these are just such fun reads, especially like for summer, if you're like just want like a beach read and stuff like that. I think these are really fun. So then I have a reread. So I reread Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Last time I read this was like 5 years ago. No way, no. That's way too many years ago for that to be true. Anyways, this was a required reading that I really enjoyed when I read it. It was like a summer reading in high school, and I reread it because I tutor, and the kid I was tutoring was reading this book, so I decided to reread it with him, and I actually just like, it grew my appreciation for this. I previously gave this 4 out of 5 stars and I changed my rating to 5 stars. I think this is such a fantastic book, especially if you're kind of scared or hesitant to go into classics like I am most of the time, because they can be really hard to read and seem really disconnected and disjointed, but this is a really accessible one. I mean, it really is, I think someone described it as really like a love letter to fiction and to literature, and it's just so fantastic, and I love this book. It's one of my all-time favorite classics, so if you haven't read it, maybe you're apprehensive to go into classics, I would definitely recommend. Then I read The Looking Glass by Janet McNally. This is a magical realism. So it's a contemporary with magical, fantastical elements. It is about a girl who is a ballerina, and her sister was also a ballerina, and she went missing, or we just haven't heard from her in a year. She's not really like missing because like they're not that concerned. Like, they're like, oh yeah, this does deal with like some heavier topics like drug abuse and addiction and things like that. Her sister had suffered from an injury, and which caused her to spiral into a drug addiction. On the main character's birthday, she gets this storybook that was like this important book in their childhood, and it has all these names written down in her sister's handwriting, and she takes this as like a map that if she follows these names, she will get more information about her sister and be able to find her ultimately. So she pulls up this storybook and goes with her best friend's brother on a road trip. There's a little bit of a romance there, which I thought was really cute, and I think this is a really great story. The storybook kind of comes to life and like guides her a little bit as well, so there's some like fantastical elements there, but is it really who knows? I think this is really a great story. I don't often see dance represented accurately, so I feel like that had a really great representation in this, and I really liked that it was just a story about like a sister bond, and I liked it a lot. Gave it 3 stars. Then I read Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. I'm saying that wrong, but I don't remember how to say it. This is the 3rd book in a like companion romantic comedy series. This follows a YouTuber who may or may not have ALS. She has it in her, she has like a 50% chance of having it, so she lives her life to the fullest. She is always like traveling, but she ends up having to come back home to her very dysfunctional family to raise, it's her stepsister's daughter. There she meets our love interest who lives across the hall from her and is like the baby whisperer, and is able to calm down this child, and they strike up this friendship, and she shuts down any romantic anything. She is like, I don't know how long I'm gonna live, I cannot do that. So it is very interesting because for a while I would definitely call it like a slow burn, because it really like there's not, I mean eventually they get into a relationship because obviously it's a romance, but like it takes a while. But she has a really dysfunctional family. I mean, she like her again, this also deals with drug addiction. Her stepsister is 19 when she has this child. She has some sort of drug addiction and is like in and out of rehab, relapsing, stealing money. Her father is like a hoarder, and like she just has like a lot of terrible things going on in her life. Yeah, it's just kind of about that, and then there's like romance that's happening, I guess, as she figures out her life, I guess. I really liked it. I've seen some kind of complaints about parts of this, which I don't want to like state those because it would be a spoiler to the book, but it does follow a similar path to the first book in the series, which was The Friend Zone. So I think that if you read that and you liked that and like are fine with how that turned out, you would be okay with this one. I thought it was great. It really had me emotional, and I thought that the relationship was really genuine, and they had a lot of chemistry, and it also obviously had those like, I wouldn't say like darker elements, but like those deeper elements going on in the story, so it wasn't just like a light and fluffy romance as maybe the cover would suggest. So I really love this. I give this 4 out of 5 stars. I love this author's work so far, so anything they write I'm pretty much gonna pick up. Lastly, I read Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Barron. This is a sapphic romance. It's a fantasy in a world where the Cinderella story is true. Now that it's like 200 years later, they have a ball every year, and we're in this very, not only heteronormative, but very misogynistic world where women have to attend this ball, and they have like 3 years to attend it, and they have to be chosen by a suitor and married, and they get, you know, whoever they get. And if you are not, you are a forfeit, and you are just given over to the kingdom, and you have to work in servitude and all of these terrible things. And we have our main character who wants to defy the system. She is not interested in men. As I said, this is a sapphic romance, so she is interested in her best friend. Her best friend doesn't really want to upset anyone or disturb the balance, but our main character ends up escaping from this ball, and she then meets our other protagonist, who is the descendant of one of the evil stepsisters, who explains to her and tells her and enlightens her of the true story of Cinderella that is not quite as much of a fairy tale as it may seem. Basically team up to take down the king. And it's really great. It's a really, really fun and fast-paced read. I liked the romance that was going on, and I liked just the way that the author took on the story of Cinderella. I like how it was twisted and manipulated, and I really liked how it was done. I really liked the story. It's not my favorite fantasy of all time, but I would pick up more from this author, especially if they do more retellings. So yeah, it was definitely really fun. Okay, now that I'm sweating my ass off, those are all the books that I read during May. Hope to read even more in June, but then I'm gonna have an even longer video, so like, what's the point? I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books, you want to let me know your thoughts, or just your favorite book you read in May, or your least favorite, or didn't read anything. I don't know. Yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!